What are the residency requirements for divorce in Texas? You have to be a resident of the county that you live in for 90 days, and you have to be a resident of Texas for 180 days. So 3 months in county, 6 months in the state in order to file for divorce. You have to have jurisdiction over the other party by some kind of a way, whether it's long-arm jurisdiction, in rem jurisdiction. These are terms you don't need to know. But just call up a lawyer and make sure, especially if somebody, the other side lives in a different state. Do you need to prove fault to file in Texas? You do not need to prove fault to file in Texas. You simply can assert that the marriage has become insupportable due to discord or conflict of personalities that make the legitimate ends of the marriage insupportable. So it's basically a no-fault state, and there are faults such as adultery, cruelty, abandonment, but most of the time, even when you do have those, you always plead for insupportability, and the court's going to grant a divorce if somebody requests it in the state of Texas. On average, how long does a Texas divorce take? Anywhere from a matter of hours to a matter of decades. It can really vary. Most of them at our firm come in 3 to 9 months. That's kind of the normal range. If you're going more than 9 months, there's probably a problem. And before you get to trial, usually a trial isn't going to happen for about 18 to 24 months, typically. That's a final trial. Now, only about 1% of all the cases that we take go to a full and final trial, and there's only a few hundred actual jury trials a year in the entire state of Texas. Giant state. It's one of the few states that can have a jury trial, but most of the time, the minimum amount of time for a divorce is 61 days because the court, there's a minimum of 60-day waiting period. So during that 60-day period, the two parties can sign an agreed final decree of divorce, and then basically that's the deal between the two of them, and then you wait until day 61 and submit it to the court, and the court can sign it. There are exceptions to that. If there are certain factors such as family violence, the waiting period can be waived. There's military exceptions. If somebody's going to go out on deployment, the waiting period for a good cause can be waived. But in general, it's at least 61 days. A lot of times we'll have an agreement done in that 60-day period of time. But most divorces just tend to take 3 to 9 months in Texas is what we see anecdotally in our firm. All right, what paperwork is required to file and what happens immediately after you file for divorce? So in order to start the divorce process, you file what's called a petition for divorce. That's an original petition for divorce, original pleading. And that's something that your lawyer will do for you. And it can be anywhere from a very detailed with descriptions of everything there and pleading everything under the sun, like adultery and cruelty and all the reasons, and asking for attorney's fees and asking for temporary orders and emergency orders and final orders. Or it can be what I call a plain vanilla, which says, here's who we are, we think we'll agree, please approve our agreement when we do agree and grant our divorce, and that's it. In Texas, you can also modify and amend that. So I always, depends on the circumstances, but I usually prefer to just file what I call the plain vanilla and not have any allegations so that people don't get upset and start escalating and creating a big fight out of it. And if we get to a point to where we're going to have to go to trial, then we file and amend it for everything that we would need in order to have the hearing. And what happens immediately afterwards, you can either, you have to make the other side aware of it. You can do that by just giving them a courtesy copy and then asking them to either file a waiver of service or an answer, or you have to formally serve them by having a process server hand them the documents. And then when that happens, it has a cover sheet that says you have until the expiration of the 20th day after service, the first Monday at 10 a.m. after the expiration of 20 days. So it's about 3 weeks, sometimes 3.5, 4 weeks, that they have to file their answer. If they don't file their answer, then you can get a default judgment. That's what happens in order to start the divorce process. So if you need to file for divorce, give us a call. We'd be happy to help you at the Palmer Law Group.